Could have, could have been a great interview, but
Yeah,
not
but
used to it.
sorry guys, if you wanted to see it. All right. Systems are go. Hey guys, how you going? Campbell here from Spiral Up channel. Hope you're all having an awesome day. And today we have a special guest for you, Wooden Nichols, who has his own channel and makes some very entertaining videos. He's come on today and we're going to talk a bit about the whole waking up experience. Obviously 2020, lots going on, and obviously a lot of people are coming to some conclusions that they hadn't reached earlier and really seeing the world for something a bit different than they thought it was. So we're just going to sort of ask a few questions and get his story on how he woke up and how it has affected his life. So welcome. How you going?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Good morning here and good evening to you.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. What was it that woke you up? Was it a certain event? Was it something gradual?
To be honest with you, I really don't even know if I am awake. I feel like if there is a chart for it, I'm probably at the point where the alarm is going off and I keep rolling over to hit the snooze button and just staying in bed. But 9/11 was definitely a big one. I was 15 at the time, a freshman in high school. And by 2003, I saw my first 9/11 conspiracy theory. And that all clicked right away with me. There was no being on the fence. It was just every piece of information that was coming out was like, yeah, that sounds accurate. Before that, I was aware that there were conspiracy theories. We didn't go to the moon. I was aware there was a conspiracy theory JFK was assassinated, but I never looked into any of that stuff. I never gave it time. Another big factor that same year, I was 17, was I started smoking marijuana. And that was also just like oh my gosh, complete ground shaker for me. So taking conspiracies and marijuana and plus probably the fluoride that's in the water, I was just believing everything I was hearing. So there were pros and cons to all of that. And it's been 17 years now since I first started getting into conspiracy theories and I first started smoking marijuana. And what I could say from this end of the spectrum is the maturity that I got out of conspiracy theories is I have the ability to listen to people without really trying to take the right or wrong in the conversation. At this point in my life, I'm not really looking for what's right and wrong. I'm just content listening to what other people have to say. And I just take from that, what I want to take from that. And I don't let any negativity or whether I disagree have an effect with the relationship with those people. That wasn't always the case because I definitely had points in my life where I was the aggressor in debates, where if we're talking about 9/11 and someone's disagreeing with me, I'm the first one to say, well, you're an effing idiot. And now I always keep an eye out for the people who are the aggressors in conversations or debates, because I recognize that that's the red flag, because now there's not going to be a decent conversation taking place. Now there's never going to be common ground. And that's what I'm always looking for. And then the other side of the smoking pot conversation, because I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And granted, I do believe that is a very positive tool, and I am an advocate for it. I now realize that I'm my best self when I'm not using marijuana. And it took me 17 years to figure that out. So I would say that would be my biggest awakening, is stepping back, being open to all conversations, not necessarily looking for the truth in it, just what resonates with me, and taking the time to essentially be sober and really kind of achieve my goals in ways that aren't holding me back.
Awesome. And I think that's a big thing. I mean, you hear all the time, are you awake? Are you awake? When did you wake up? But it's definitely a journey. Get little bits and a bit more vision as we go along. As they say, the higher you climb, the further you can see. So awesome. All right, let's just jump into the next question. So, as you mentioned, when you woke up, you did at times get a bit aggressive with pushing the point, on conspiracy theories. So, in general, how did people react to you when you started coming out with different ideas, different points of view, and having conversations about it and arguments, maybe?
I would say I never really had a sidekick through much of that. My friends would listen, but no one was ever really fully on board with me and like having my back when I'd want to like talk about something alternative. So there's definitely times that it wasn't positive, especially like, for instance, like when it came to my family. I would always want to get into it with them naturally, because the first thing you do when you hear some alternative information that works for you is you want to share it. You want other people to know this. This is important. But with like my dad, he didn't want to hear none of that. And even my mom, she would always be willing to listen, but she wasn't interested in anything like that. I think they're content with the life that they have, and they don't care to shake that tree at all. And yeah, it took me a long time to also kind of realize they're just my, beliefs and my thoughts, and I shouldn't be pushing them on to anyone else. So that was kind of another battle that I had to kind of wake up to, was that it's okay what other people believe. I don't care to debate anyone anymore. And I can always judge based on a conversation how much information I'm going to give about myself to them, just kind of, gauging the first couple sentences. Nowadays, with the sniffle crisis going on, I'm very open about how quick I am to say that I think this is all kind of ridiculous. And it's amazing because in my line of industry, I've only come across one person where I've said, well, this is kind of BS. That was like, you're right, it is. Everyone else just looks at you with a dead face, like, what? Like, are you a Trump supporter? you know, it's crazy how many people over here really do believe confidently that the information that's coming from the mainstream is accurate, and there's zero reason to question it, even though in front of all of our eyes, no essential businesses had to close down during the first lockdown because of an outbreak. The people that I know that caught it are like, I'm fine, it was fine. They all repeated the same symptoms, which is, oh, I couldn't smell anything for like 2 weeks. I couldn't taste anything. And I'm aware of one person who passed away. And I am aware that they also died on a ventilator. But that's not my place to talk about that with anyone, because I didn't know the guy. And again, most of the people just in the beginning conversations, they believe it's all real. So they're not going to listen to me. So I'm not going to try to push it that, hey, maybe there's something else going on here. So yeah, I mean, I feel like even the term being awake, though, I mean, if I heard someone say, hey, I'm awake, I'm not going to trust them, because it's like, if you have to say it, then are you really? If you got to tell people. But I feel like for me, in terms of that waking process, the less I say to people, kind of the better sometimes. Because, if you're not going to you're not going to change anyone's mind, then, well, let me rephrase that. I don't expect to change anyone's mind, so I'm not going to necessarily try in terms of conversations. And I think to me, that's kind of like my version of being awake, is not trying to force anyone else's eyes open. If they want to listen, you can listen, but not going to argue, not going to debate anymore.
It's true, isn't it? All the woke folk. But I mean, I guess we all go through that. It's a bit like, people who give up smoking, and then they're suddenly running around yelling at everyone that, telling them that they can't smoke. Everyone sort of, when they get onto information, they want to run around and yell at people. But yeah, I suppose as you go into this and you start understanding it, you do understand that as an inner journey, it's all about how we understand it and the questions, and it's not our place to force anything on anyone else. It's a free world. So with your new perspective on life and obviously learning a few more things and getting into that new groove, did you find that it's what did it change most in your life? Has it changed anything in particular, the decisions you make?
I think the biggest one is just having respect for the organism, doing my best to take care of it. And to this day, I still don't. I still put things in my body that I know is not good for me, but it's that fleeting joy you get from it. I like to think, because I'm in my 30s, as long as I've made enough kind of baby steps along the way, by the time I get to that age where it's like, okay, now real problems are going to start occurring, it's going to be easier to just switch gears and not do some of those certain things, not eat some of those certain things. So yeah, I would say just having more appreciation for what is clearly fragile, and not just, within me, but like my plants that I take care of. I don't have really pets now, but when I, did have pets, taking care of and loving, the things that are around you. And again, I still struggle with that, because at the end of the day, I still kind of hate people. I don't want to be around people. If I can avoid them as much as possible, I'm going to. But even that's just part of like me respecting them, because it's just like, I know that I'm not going to get along with 90% of the people that I come across. So I think it's just best if I respect you by being as far away from you as humanly possible.
Definitely understand that. And I think that's also a common thing, which is why the internet's so good, because, back in the day, before the connections, you were a lot of people felt pretty alone when they sort of got onto this information. And yeah, so technology's definitely good and bad, I guess, double-edged sword. But you kind of mentioned it then, that you're sort of seeing life differently. And I guess that's another thing, is as you start getting onto this information, it tends to go from conspiracy to more of a spiritual understanding, I think, is the progression that you see a lot of people go through. They really start to sort of see the world as something. It's funny, because you see the world as something really bad, and it's like, it's all bad. And as you go through it, you sort of come out going, hang on, the world's awesome. And you're starting to see the good in it.
Very well said.
So what are you doing differently now?
Taking conspiracy and that being like the catalyst to the spiritual side of things. Ultimately, I even prefer the term conspiracy theory over truther. To me, truther has like a lot of negative connotation to it, because again, going back to someone who says, I know the truth, I feel like if you got to say you know the truth, then do you really know the truth? But that ability to listen to what other people have to say, take what resonates with you from it, but then ultimately getting to that other side of the tunnel. And this is the one reason why I really enjoy and respect the Tartarian mud flood conspiracy, is because to me, that is the light at the end of the conspiracy theory tunnel. You can go down a lot of dark rabbit holes in conspiracy, We all know that, especially when you get into like the more sci-fi ones where it's like, oh, they're probably like cloning people in some like underground world, and gosh knows what they're putting in the water and all this. That when I came across the Tartarian one, my first thought was, well, this is really stupid. This can all be disproven. And then the more I listened to it, it really kind of was like, well, now hold on a second. You're telling me that that building in the narrative was only here for 10 years and you knocked it down? That doesn't make sense today. And the more I, looked into it, followed your work, followed John's work, Conspiracy R Us's, Martin, it started to make me feel better. And I think that's kind of the beautiful part about this community. And even some of the people that I've talked to is they say that this is also helping them. I know one individual I spoke with who said that watching these research videos helped them kick their alcoholism. Um, Even if, let's say, the information that we're looking into isn't true, which I'm always kind of on the fence. At some point, if someone puts something in my face and is like, here's proof this Tartarian conspiracy theory isn't true, I'll look it down. And if it feels accurate, I'll say, you know what, this looks accurate. I don't think there is any truth to this anymore. But even with that, just how much positivity it's brought to me, and I know it's brought to other people, I think that's a win. And maybe that's a bizarre thing about insanity. Maybe insanity and not knowing the truth actually makes you feel better. In that case, like, I don't know which one to go with. Personally, I guess I would choose insanity over truth if it genuinely makes me happier. Because I do know that living in this system that we're all in, I hit my moments of depression. And a lot of that depression was not recognizing that the system is what helps bring you down. And that was, yeah, just that starting point of, okay, well, here's a conspiracy. Oh, shoot, maybe the system's not my friend. And then that leads you on your way. And ultimately, yeah, you do get to those deeper conversations that really help you open up and blossom if it's not too late. Which I like to think it never is too late. You can always blossom the next season.
Exactly. Never, never too late. That's for sure. Awesome. Great answer. All right. So,
Well, how about you? What was one of you?
What about me?
I was gonna ask.
Yep.
I was gonna throw it back on you. What was one of your first big eureka moments that led you down your spiritual path?
I'm pretty much. I was just a confused child. Let's put it that way. And I remember when I was about 5, because I didn't come from a really religious family, but I went to Christian schools, and back in the day there were nuns and that, and we went to church every so often. And I just noticed back then that all these people that were going to church and that were, sort of purporting to be these good Christians, and when they weren't in church, they weren't those people. And at a young age, Christian school, we had Bible, we had religious education. And so I'd hear all these stories about, how you're supposed to help people and feed people and be nice and that. And it's just not what I saw. And so back that early, I started thinking, hang on, there's something wrong here. And I guess my first thought was, these people aren't, they're tricking, they're not who they say they are. And so from then I was just always very, I was a watcher, I just became an observer, I guess, and sat back and watched everything. And when you do that, less and less makes sense. So yeah, I'm kind of someone who's, always kind of been a bit out there, a bit different, and just never really understood the world. It just never really made sense until I started researching. So because I used to, like when I was 14, I had the old Encyclopedia Britannicas, in the old wooden bookshelves. I don't know if you're old enough to remember them. Had them in my room. I had every book, Dad had a few books on ancient history, and I had dictionary, because I'd literally sit there going through these, just looking for something, but I didn't even know what I was looking for. I was just, so when the internet came along, I was very happy. I was just like, what? you can put a question in and get an answer. Are you serious? And I was just gone. Yeah. So when the internet came, that was, I guess, when I really started to find out a lot of information back in the day when YouTube was the wild, wild west. And like, as far as conspiracy theories, they were just out there. But no, it was great. So, and that also teaches you to, be a bit discerning in what you believe. Yeah, I'm just everything. The world is what woke me up, I guess.
Yeah. Well, especially with the internet, one of the best conversations I've heard of a way of looking at it is very similar to a mycelium network with mushrooms. That if there's one side of the forest and there's a toxic spill, and the mushrooms figure out how to clean it up and start growing there, they send that information all the way through the mycelium network. So if it happens again over here, it now knows how to fix it. In a lot of ways, that is the best aspects of the internet. Someone has a eureka moment on one side, shares it. Now someone on the other side, eureka.
No.
But we also see the negative side that it's all being used towards as well, which is, just watching porn all day.
Yeah, it's like Hunter Biden. Yeah, that's the thing. When I used to think of it as, like the physical manifestation of the collective consciousness, basically. I guess same kind of concept. It's suddenly we're all connected and we can all, talk to each other. And of course, when that happened, the information, because we've got all these different minds on it, just went off so quickly. Where if you think the internet, even it was pretty much 20 years ago, it was still, not many people had it. It was still a bit of an out there thing. And so 20 years and, look how far we've come in what we know about the world and where we are. And so it's a interesting time, that's for sure.
Yeah, now everyone's just using it to talk about how much they hate each other and how they're idiots. Oh, yeah, he's stupid for believing that. Like, F that guy and F you.
Oh, come on. Instagram's a great place for truth and ethics, isn't it? It's that. But I mean, this is the thing. Everything's a double-edged sword. And lots of people say, oh, the internet's bad, and they created it, they own it. And I'm kind of like, well, if they created it, well, I'm going to use it to bring them down. I'm going to use it, whatever, for whatever purposes I want. I'm going to let them own anything. They've taken it enough. So
for me, I feel like I've been very fortunate enough where, like, with that awakening process, it's been like a baby step of like, how do you want to figure it out on your own? Whereas I know with other people, sometimes it's a violent shaking. It's a violent awakening. And I guess in some ways, for me, it's just nothing but feeling gratitude and thankfulness that I got to kind of walk that path myself, rather than someone going through an extreme trauma that is what causes them to have to choose a path of, do you want to do something super positive with this horrific event that you've experienced, or do you want to go down a path where you continue to create chaos and havoc? And I guess I'd only just say that I truly admire those people, and I think they're the strongest and best people in the world that had that calamity, chose to do something positive with it, and have helped so many more because of it. I think those are the best people on the planet. Those are the strongest people on the planet, stronger than me. That's for darn sure. And I would say the most awakened as well. I don't hold a candle up to any of those individuals.
I totally agree. When you hear some of the stories of what people have been through and they're just still living their life with a smile, I mean, yeah, I totally get what you mean there. It can be so humbling. But like you say, the trolls are out there, but just don't feed the trolls, I guess. We all have decision, we all have choice in the end, and that's what it comes down to, isn't it?
And I've struggled with that. It took me a long time to learn to keep the trolls under the bridge, especially when I first started the channel. Anyone said anything, it's like, oh, you want to get into it? All right, let's get into it. And the missus really had to teach me, like, don't do that, because as soon as you acknowledge them, they've won. You've given them your energy, and you're not going to win that battle.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you say, even if you're trying to like bridge the gap and be like, hey, well, like, they're still going to end up insulting you. They're going to say something ridiculous, and it's going to leave you even more like frustrated and angry, and it's not worth it. I do read every comment. I just choose to not respond to pretty much everyone now. I did create my Instagram and Facebook that if anyone did want to reach out, I'll always be much more interactive there than in YouTube.
Now it's so true. It's, like I say, just don't feed them, where attention goes, energy flows, and they're out there, and you never know who they are anyway. And most of them are just trying to get a dig.
Right.
So I always just kind of pity them. I just kind of think, if you don't like something, why are you wasting some of your life to actually write down that you don't like it? I mean, just turn it off and go to the
Absolutely.
next video. Like, come on. It's just, I don't know.
It is a real lack of maturity that shows.
It is.
Like, I hate you so much that I can't get through my day until I say something.
It is. Well, it's like they used to say, with a lot of people, it's attention they want, and, they'll take bad attention over no attention. So they're just out there trying to raise someone's annoyance. Alrighty. So with all the trolls gone and ignored, what's your vision of the future? How do you see the future, and what would you like it to be?
That's an excellent question. One of the topics I briefly covered in a video was this, I guess, channeler is what he is. His name's Bashar. I used to watch his videos, and I never believed him for a second, but he claims to be channeling an entity named Bashar.
Yep.
He just addresses audiences. But he did say one thing that to this day has continued to resonate with me. And it was along the top, someone asked him about what's going to happen in 2012, back in 2009 or whatever.
Yeah.
And his response was, imagine 2012 like a train station. And when that time hits, all the trains are going to depart the train station. You're going to start moving slow at first, but then they're going to start picking up, and they're all going to go different directions. In that time frame between 2012 and 2014, it's going to be a little bit easier to switch what train you're on. You can hop off, jump on another one. But as that time goes, it's going to be more difficult. And once you're on that train, you're on that train. I personally see a lot of truth to that, especially now. And now it kind of seems like some of those trains people are on are actually on a collision course for each other. And those trains are going to hit. Other trains, they're going to go off into the distance, and they're going to do different things. I like to think for my future that I got on one of those trains that is going off into the horizon, and there's going to be much more manifesting what I would like, because I'm not going to be as much involved with the distractions that are taking place. And I also feel like another part of that awakening process is realizing just how much we're plugged into this reality, and those decisions that we make and the situations we put ourselves in will help open the next door. That if we envision like, okay, well, I want to become this person. Sorry, let me repeat that. That I want to become this person. I want this house. I want to be there. But then just kind of sit back and wait for it. Those doors never open. It's not until you actually make a huge gamble and put yourself in a vulnerable situation then the reality will open those doors. I believe that to be more of a reality these days. And I like to think that that train that I'm on is heading more and more into that direction, where now you have to really let the fear take a back seat, stop listening to the ideas that you might fail, and put yourself in the position the doors will open. And it's a risky move, but I do believe that in order to do that, you also need to be the most clear-headed you can. You know, you can't just be such a dreamer and have your head in the clouds. It's good to have your head in the clouds, but there's also the expression, it's a long way down. So be a dreamer, but also be grounded and be realistic and take chances. And that's what I'm going to do with my future. And I'm going to ignore everything else that's coming because I know there's going to be a lot of bad news. It's going to be nothing but horrible, horrible stories in our future. And we just can't bite down on that because it's just bait. And some people might think that we're being inconsiderate or, you know, trying to ignore the problem, but the problem's already there. I don't plan on fixing it. If I can help fix it, fantastic. But again, that's not part of my goal on my train. My goal on my train is going to be taking care of myself, be taking care of that is around me, and really just trying to create as much internal joy and happiness as I can. And if I can share that with others, then I've truly succeeded. And that's something that I kind of think about with my channel is I never had any intentions of making a YouTube channel ever. It wasn't until I took this job, became horrifically depressed, and realized that the biggest hole that I had in myself was that I was doing nothing creative. I was doing nothing for me. And then once I figured out how to actually make a YouTube channel, I was like, wait, that's it? You just hit screen record? Like I already have the programs on my computer. And the more I work on that channel, I always wanted to be doing something positive for someone. I don't care if there's truth involved in it or not. I secretly kind of think at times I might be wrong. I might be saying stuff that's not accurate, but I also don't really care to fact check myself because I just want to get the video out there because there's moments that made me laugh. There's moments that brought me joy. And that's always going to be the most important aspect of my channel is that it's doing the same for others. And I feel like it is. Some people really do hate the channel. Some people really do hate GW, but other people have also reaffirmed that, you know, they've spit coffee out onto their cat or that, you know, they've just couldn't breathe from laughing so hard watching the content. And that's the stuff that I enjoy the most. And that's why I'll keep doing that content and be the most positive I can now and in the future.
Great answer. Yeah, I really like that analogy about the trains too. That's, like you say, sort of looking out at the moment, it does make a lot of sense, doesn't it? You know, that people seem to be splitting, you know, into different groups of how they see the world and what they believe. And yeah, when you sort of said that you're going to ignore people, I kind of saw myself on the train just with all these people, you know, all these posters on the outside. You know, beer virus. And I'm just sort of looking at them as I chug down the line really quickly. Okay, see ya. But I mean, and that's kind of what a lot of people are saying. You know, there's a lot of talk about timelines. So who knows, right? I guess if you're in this space, then made some good decisions. All right, so yeah, that's pretty much the end of it. If I didn't mention it before, Wooden Nichols has a channel which is awesome. It's really funny, very unique content.
Immature.
Immature, you know, lots of fart jokes, all that kind of stuff. But yes, no, lots of great content, information, but with a great sense of humor. And so, yeah, thank you. That was really interesting. Some great wisdom from you there. So thanks for spending some time with us. Yeah, maybe we'll get you back in the future and see how you're going down the road, because as you mentioned, you're on the precipice of a new adventure. You're heading out on the next stage of your life. So good luck with it all, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. Bye now.
Perfect.